Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the bay.
It's always sad when two friends who came in the game together fall apart. In hip hop, we've seen it time and time again. When loyalty breaks, the stories that follow never sound the same. Depending on who you ask, the versions change and the finger always get pointed the other way.
It was a party one time in Miami and they was like spilling drinks. Nobody knew who BMF was. They was spilling like drinks over the top of the rail. And I was underneath for whatever balcony it was, but Jim was getting wet. Jim and somebody else getting wet. And they was like, yo, stop fucking.
Memorial Day weekend. When Memorial Day weekend was popping, Fat Joe, pool parties, when BMF just started coming out, niggas didn't know who these niggas is. They got 19 Lambos and shit like that, 100 bottles. So we go up in the party, me, Cam, Set, a bunch of BMF niggas up there. Not mentioning them, just a bunch of BMF niggas and shit like that.
I'm about to ask you a BMF.
They pop wild champagne. Cam had on some pretty pink shit. All the champagne fall on Cam, right?
Oh, they popping into like.
But in every feud, there's usually one voice outside of the crossfire. And in this case, it was Juelz Santana. And unlike the others, his version went a little further because in telling the story, he would mention a name most people outside of Newark, New Jersey ever heard of. Hakeem, ETH Hawk, Curry.
I was gonna move to Atlanta. We was hyped.
Nah, we was.
Yeah.
Then a little incident kind of happened. I don't know if Jim ever told. We ran into not even us. Some shit happened with the BMF dudes.
Yeah,
at
I heard
the time.
about that.
But that got squashed. But
right.
The crazy thing was that we was just about to. We had been out in Atlanta for 2 weeks prior to that, right? I don't know if you remember Ill.
Yeah, I remember Ill.
It was. I was out here with Chubbs running around with Ill, and so everything was all good, right? So we get to we get to Miami. Kim like, yeah, we gonna go out to Atlanta. We about to go. This Memorial Weekend came up, so we just about to. I
think it was at Sobe Live, man. It was
one of them clubs.
Right.
I don't remember, but Kim was just had the crib. He had picked out a crib. He was gonna rent out here for like 2 months and all that. Boom. So we in Miami. One time, I think it was the night before, something happened. They spraying champagne over the top. It wasn't like no initial members from BMF. It was I think it was some St. Louis dudes, but they was like a branch off some dudes that I guess bring a lot of money in. You know what I'm saying? Spraying champagne over the banister. Niggas ran up there. You know what I mean? Got it on with them, kind of got it popping. Next day, we had the show. We had a show in Miami.
Had y'all known about BMF at the time?
Not really. You know what I mean? I didn't even know who Ill. I was just prior. I was out here with Chubbs, and Ill was me and Ill was mad cool. So you mean everything was? I didn't even know this whole real BMF thing. Cool.
That was I remember it was about 03, 04.
Yeah, man. So, boom. Next day we had the show in Miami. 30 niggas holding up BMF flags at the front of the joint. Like, this is weird. What the fuck is going on? These niggas look mad. Niggas looked mad, like, you know what I mean? So we performing, we rocking out. And Fat Joe and them was there. So, Macho and all them, they like, oh, what the fuck? Shit looked a little weird. They didn't even really know. So they like, yo, those niggas in the front, they gave us burners and all that. You know what I mean? Like, our certain niggas that, like, just be easy. Macho kind of walked us. Shit got crazy. Like, this shit got crazy. Boom. So, make a long story short, now we go up, we staying at the Palms Hotel. Ill pull up, right? With like 50 niggas. There's like 50 of these niggas, man. I swear to God, right? So we in the
Same t-shirts?
Hotel. Me, all these niggas got BMF t-shirts. Like, what the fuck? Shit. So Chubbs is there too, right? But Ill just got this look on his face like, you know what I mean? Mind you, we just with this nigga in Atlanta, like prior, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
the week before.
But he just got this look like, you know what I mean? He waiting for everybody to come mount up. I mean, these niggas just rush us, boom. You know what I mean? They don't do nothing. He actually ran right by me, because I think he was like, you know what I mean? The problem wasn't really, it was with like Jim and the guys that was, you know what I mean? They always kind of separated shit. You know, Cam, just as much as it was Dipset, it was like Jim's guys, Cam's guys, and Joel's guys. So they kind of separated it. Nothing really happened that day. Something did happen. You know what I mean? Some shit really kind of went down in Miami, and like, but it got squashed through some niggas we knew in Jersey. Shout out to my man Daddy-O. That was another niggas that just ETH High. Them niggas got some super paper. Called up meet you niggas just squashed the shit.
And if you knew, you know that E.T. wasn't just another street name. At the time of his arrest, U.S. Attorney Chris Christie, the same man who would later become the governor of New Jersey, would allege that ETH Hawk's organization was responsible for nearly 85% of the heroin flowing through Newark at the time, along with moving upwards of 30 to 50 kilograms of cocaine every week, a $1 million operation that prosecutors claimed was built on fear, power, and drugs.
I was born in the winter of 1976 in Newark, New Jersey. From a young age, I became a product of my environment, an environment where cash ruled everything around me. I was raised under the faith of Islam, but I found myself seeing hypocrisy in almost everything except money. I once believed that money and what it could do was the only truth I could depend on when everything else failed. Love, friendship, loyalty. Because of that, I worked hard to maintain it, but others would later use this against me, convicting me of conspiracy to distribute cocaine and heroin, charges that led to 2 life sentences plus 60 years. Over the past 11 years, I've come to realize something. Man makes the money, but money can't make the man. I'm surrounded by guys who have accumulated a lot of money by engaging in everything under the sun. Yet most of them are not men amongst men. I often find myself counseling younger men who look at my past life as something they'd like to experience. But too many of them believe morality and integrity aren't qualities worth learning from me. The older I get, the more I realize how important it is to share my story, to give the youth a perspective I didn't have. I want them to understand the value of character and what it truly means to be a man amongst men. That's why I'm an advocate for the convict soapbox and men stop movements. My goal is to help them grow in any way I can. I'm committed to teaching young people that everything that glitters isn't gold, that there are more important things in life than money, things like family, freedom, and peace. I was once misled, but now I understand the importance of role models and positive leaders.
New Jersey is a state of illusions. On paper, it stands as one of the wealthiest states in the nation, ranked near the top for household income. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the state's median household income hovers around $85,000, placing it firmly within the top 5 across the country. And with those numbers, it creates the image of prosperity, suggesting a place where wealth and opportunity are the norm. And even as impressive as those household medians sound, those numbers are even deceiving, because behind even those glossy statistics lies a little bit of distortion. A handful of ultra-rich towns drag the state's averages skyward. In Alpine, an exclusive Bergen County suburb, the median household pulls in nearly $400,000 a year. A short drive away to Short Hills, part of the affluent Milburn Township. Families average close to $350,000 a year. And then over in Essex County, Livingston comes in around $180,000, while nearby Morris County towns like Chatham and Minham push close to around $200,000. Even if you travel south to Princeton, you'll see the rate at around $160,000. These are the mini mansion and cul-de-sac subdivisions that bend the numbers, building the illusion of universal prosperity. But outside of these walls of privilege, the story changes dramatically, and it's exposed just a couple miles away in New Jersey's poorest cities, where a place like Camden leads the way, with poverty swallowing roughly 35.7% of its residents. Passaic isn't too far behind, with 35% of its people living below the line. And in Trenton, the figure is about 30.4%. Patterson follows with 25.8%. And then there's Newark, New Jersey's largest city, where nearly 27.8% of the people live in poverty. And it's probably right here, out of all places in the state of New Jersey, where its shiny facade crumbles, the place where the illusion collapses and the truth hits the hardest, because it's the sharpest reminder that behind New Jersey's polished image of wealth, there's a darker, harsher reality.
Newark has 280,000 residents. The city finished 2015 with 105 murders. That's 37 homicides per 100,000 residents. 93 murders in 2014, 33 per 100,000. Across the Hudson, New York City has nearly 8.5 million people. It recorded 348 homicides last year, 4 per 100,000 residents. 333 homicides in 2014, 4 per 100,000. A block from Fairmont Cemetery, a candle flickers at a makeshift memorial outside a liquor store where someone gunned down 20-year-old Taekwon Rogers, Newark's 104th murder by late December. Mayor Raz Baraka knows Rogers' family and shared their heartbreak with City Council a day later.
As she cried on the floor, she lost the third of her sons this evening, all to gun violence in the city. We desperately need to do something different about what's happening in the city.
Newark has 280,000 residents. The city finished 2015 with 105 murders. That's 37 homicides per 100,000 residents. 93 murders in 2014, 33 per 100,000. Across the Hudson, New York City has nearly 8.5 million people. It recorded 348 homicides last year, 4 per 100,000 residents. 333 homicides in 2014, 4 per 100,000. In both cities, killings by gunfire are increasing. What will Mayor Baraka's plan of restructuring under a public safety umbrella do about the gun violence?
The reality is there's no magic trick, right? Except that we have full employment. I mean, that's number one. But ultimately, we need people to come forward. We need intelligence. We need to make intelligence on the street. And people have to feel comfortable in order to do that. They have to have a better relationship with the police. They have to feel like they're going to be protected. They have to understand that that we may have to relocate them.
The mayor blamed gun trafficking and illegal possession for some of the violence. The soon-to-be retiring police chief said the department is making progress tracing guns and shares the results with the feds and state police.
We take this so seriously. We actually have a member of the ATF, federal entity ATF, embedded in our major crimes unit to actually work with our detectives and not only obviously investigating gun crime, but actually searching, going back, finding the gun, where it came from, time from purchase to crime.
I don't think that these people just wake up and decide to kill people.
Abdul Muhammad, the former lead instructor at Newark's fatherhood program, is an employment specialist. He says there are a lot of inner city ills, generations of failing schools, lack of skills, drugs, mental illness that lead to frustration and broken men.
The question is, how do we rebuild that spirit? How do we rebuild community? I think that's what's missing.
Well, the approach is going to have to be multi-layered, especially in a city like Newark.
Newark native John Shane spent 20 years with the Newark Police Department and retired as captain. He's now a professor of police policy and practice with a focus on crime control at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Shane says fighting violent crime requires an academic analysis.
It's not enough to say we have a gun problem. It's not enough to say we have a violence problem. We need to drill down specifically and parse out the types of violence that they have. Are they occurring on the street? Are they occurring in or among gangs? Are they domestic disputes? What types of problems? Because they all require different interventions.
The mayor says he's at wit's end about illegal guns winding up on Newark streets, and he'll ask the council to adopt a resolution supporting the president's executive order, an order Professor Shane says will have no bearing on combating crime in Newark.
It was 1995 or so. I was a Brooklyn kid, less than 20 miles away, when a film hit theaters that would define an era. The movie was New Jersey Drive, a raw look at the so-called car theft capital of America. On screen, it was stolen cars tearing down blocks, police sirens cutting through the night, and teenagers barely old enough to drive risking their lives for the next joyride. But what most didn't realize was that city officials in Newark never even let the cameras roll. Afraid of the stigma the movie might bring, they would block filming permits, so the story had to be shot in Jersey City and nearby towns, stand-ins that could only imitate the real thing. For audiences like me, and for much of the world, it would become the first window into what life inside of New Jersey's inner cities might look like. But the reality was far more dangerous than Hollywood would dare to show. In and around that same time, Hakeem ETH Hawk Curry, a teenager, was coming of age in Newark itself, while a movie projected one image of the city. E.T. was finding his way in its lucrative drug trade, learning the codes of the street, and stepping into a world where survival depended on both nerve and ambition. By the turn of the millennium, he would rise to become one of the biggest drug kingpins the state of New Jersey had ever seen. This was a city scarred by corruption, crime, and poverty. The 1967 riots had shattered trust and stability, driving middle-class families out and leaving behind abandoned blocks that became fertile grounds for the drug economy. Political corruption would also run deep, from Mayor Hugh Adonizio's mob ties in the 1970s to the backroom deals and scandals that followed under later administrations. The police department itself would be plagued by misconduct and distrust. And as heroin would flow through Newark in the 1970s, followed by crack sweeping the city in the 1980s and 90s, the murder rate would soar. Entire housing projects were said to be transformed into open-air drug markets. And by the 1990s, Newark had earned a reputation as one of America's most dangerous cities, a place where the line between politics, law enforcement, and the underworld was blurry as fuck. And for a teenager like E.T. Hawk, this wasn't just history. It was the air that he breathed. And by the year 2000, federal prosecutors would say he was running one of Newark's most powerful drug organizations, with the U.S. government accusing him and his crew of flooding the city with heroin branded as some of the highest quality on the streets, while also supplying kingpin levels of cocaine, a pipeline that they would claim earned millions of dollars in profit. They would describe his operation structured like a corporation, with Curry at the top, lieutenants beneath him, and messengers handling blocks and crews in place to collect money and enforce order. And when said order was tested, prosecutors would allege that ET would sanction violence to keep his empire secure. And in April of 2001, Darnell Buck Anderson, once considered a close associate of ETH Hawk, would be shot dead because, according to the government's case, Buck had become a liability, and his killing would serve as a warning to anyone who might think about turning against the organization. Then, in January of 2004, came what prosecutors would describe as the most brazen act tied to ETH Hawk's crew, and it would be the murder of Derek Brennan. Brennan had been prepared to testify in a state drug case against one of ET's associates, but before he could ever reach the stand, he would be ambushed and killed on the streets of Newark. Prosecutors will argue that the murder was ordered to silence a witness and protect the organization's hierarchy, and it will become the central pillar of the racketeering charges that would bring down Hakeem Curry and his crew. Between the year 2000 and 2004, the DEA and Newark Police Department would build a case with wiretaps, cooperating witnesses, as well as flipped insiders from the crew, eventually pulling together the evidence that prosecutors would use to describe Curry's organization as one of the most violent and profitable drug enterprises in New Jersey. And by 2004, the empire will begin to unravel. Federal agents working alongside Newark police had spent years gathering evidence, surveillance, wiretaps, and cooperating witnesses who would turn against ET. And according to court records, those witnesses would paint a vivid picture of his hierarchy, linking him to the flow of heroin and cocaine and the violence the prosecutors said kept the enterprise intact. ET would be arrested during a controlled sale through someone in his organization that the government was able to flip, which would lead to him being indicted on sweeping federal charges of drug trafficking, conspiracy, and racketeering. The indictment would lay out a 4-year reign that, according to federal prosecutors, funneled millions of dollars through Newark streets while silencing anyone who dared to testify against it. The trial was marked by testimony from former associates who would describe ET as a leader that commanded loyalty through both money and fear. Jurors heard about the cocaine he moved weekly and the heroin branded and sold on Newark's corners, and the murders that the prosecutors allege were committed in the service of the organization. The government's case would hinge on tying Curry directly to those acts, not just as a participant, but as the man at the top who gave the orders. And in 2006, the verdict would come down. Hakeem ETH Hawk Curry would be convicted on federal charges of conspiracy to distribute heroin and cocaine, as well as tie him to the murders of Darnell Anderson and Derek Brennan through racketeering enhancements. The sentence would be devastating: 2 life terms plus 60 years, ensuring that he would never walk free again. And with that verdict, the organization would collapse. The same structure that once gave Newark one of its most feared drug empires would crumble as lieutenant after lieutenant would flip. The crew would scatter, and the streets that carried his name was gentrified. And for the federal government, it was the end of a case they would call one of the most significant drug prosecutions in New Jersey's history. For Newark, it was just one more chapter in a long cycle of poverty, politics, and crime, where the fall of one kingpin only made room for the next. Now, y'all make sure y'all hit the red bell and subscribe button right under this video so y'all know when this real trill spill shit is dropping. Y'all get in the comment box below. Y'all let me know what cities we need to go to, what stories we need to tell, what we missed, what we got wrong, all of that. Y'all make sure y'all tapping with me directly on Instagram, Twitter, POP_A_LOT. And until the next jug, y'all know how we rocking. Shades Popalot. Salute the almighty mob.